Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first ever episode of the Existential Lens Podcast. I'm your host, Chantal, and this is a space where we explore the why behind what people do. I want to go beyond the surface of success and dig a little bit deeper into the questions of what drives people to take risks, how they find meaning in their work, and is there a bigger plan, or are we all just figuring out as we go? So how this works is each episode I'll be sitting down with entrepreneurs, creatives, and peoples carving their own paths and talking about their experiences into struggles and what keeps them motivated. We're going to dive into their purpose, ambition, and how people turn challenges into something meaningful. And today I have a special guest, Alex Morgan. He's got an incredible story about the struggles he's faced early on, how he built the confidence he has today, and what led him to figure out what success means to him. We're going to talk about what pushed him into entrepreneurship, what keeps him going, and whether he believes things happen for a reason or if we just create our own paths. So grab a coffee, settle in, and let's get into it. All right. So obviously I know you, but for people who don't, how would you describe yourself?
That's kind of a difficult thing just to kind of put on somebody, but I would describe myself as caring. I'm very loyal to the people who I'm loyal to, almost to a fault. And I think that I just wake up every day and try to get through what I have going on, no matter what life throws at me. And that's something that I've learned over the years, and it's a thing that I have to be kind of mindful of every day.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you're a really persistent person, and like you said, you're very caring, and I think you're super hardworking, maybe more than you give yourself credit for.
Yeah, I think that that's something that I got to work better at, is kind of a theory of mind for how much I actually work. Now, that work ethic has been built over perhaps resistance, particularly with like some of my math skills and stuff like that. There's been times in my life where I've struggled quite a bit. And so to overcome that, you just have to like kind of will yourself through it. And so that's kind of an interesting thing. I would rather have not had to learn that, right? I would kind of, in a way, it's like, oh, it would be better if I could have just coasted all the way through, because a lot of stuff comes to me very easily. But then would I have the persistence and the self-control and stuff that I have now? I'm not sure.
Right. Yeah, I think you've shown a lot of it throughout your time in college, at least that I've seen. And then even in recent times with your new business, Veil Vanity Boutique. So we can get right into that. Why don't you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, so actually the business idea came to me when I was in South Florida promoting your diamond grading course.
Yeah.
We went to a diamond expo, and that wasn't going too well. A lot of the people, apparently, they don't need people to grade diamonds. They're just buying them from India.
Yeah.
And so we had some time on our hands, and so I was walking around. I saw a lot of suppliers, and I saw an earring that was like cowgirl boots, but in like garnet and gold color.
Right.
And
like
I was,
the school.
And instantly I'm like, oh wow. First of all the sorority girls, they wear cowgirl boots. These, they say game day and whatnot. I was like, these would sell. So we bought that. And then I was like, I really want a breadth of inventory and, kind of hedge my bet, because I don't know what's going to sell. So I think we spent like $300 or $400 on just buying from all of these suppliers to come here to see what would sell. And we were able to, when we sell on Landis as part of our university, I was able to sell there first. And turns out that the bracelets sell better than the cowgirl boots, although I've sold quite a few.
Yeah.
So, this is my last semester here. It's like, okay, I need to get into the Market Wednesday stuff, but it's definitely been kind of a journey of learning. And And I would say that the one thing that I've learned most from my experience having started the micro business here is just compliance with regulations, understanding taxes, understanding that you have to file, understanding how the business taxes flow through, because I'm an LLC, but I'm taxed like a sole proprietorship. You know, it's a personal thing. So that really solidified what I learned in a practical sense. And so what that's done to me now is, you know, obviously I have that business, and I'm looking to expand it a little bit and perhaps even sell it to somebody who's coming in that's like a freshman, so that they could continue it. I think that that might be a good opportunity for somebody.
I think so, yeah.
But what it's provided me is the understanding of like, okay, I can start a business. I'm not going to have like the idea and then be like, oh, I don't know what to expect with the taxes and stuff. And I mean, I think it sounds like a simple little thing, and somebody could kind of dismiss it. But if you've already done it, I feel like that takes a lot of the anxiety out of it. You're like, oh, I know what to do.
Right. It's a repeated thing.
Yeah. And so I think that as far as like our college provides, College of Entrepreneurship, that's like a tangible thing that you can learn here. That is a tangible thing that's going to set you apart from your competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And for context, we're both students at the Florida State University in the College of Entrepreneurship, Jim Moran, and we're both kind of going through a similar program right now where we're building these businesses. But just to get a little bit further into that, when was the first time like you had the idea of maybe going more of like the opening business route instead of doing a 9 to 5, more like working for yourself? When was the first time you thought about that?
Ooh, the first time, that would be tricky because when I was in elementary school, I had the idea of a car brand. And so I kind of fantasized about that and playing around, which is, it's really quite funny because in a lot of ways, Elon Musk is like the embodiment of what I wanted to be when I was a kid, like create my own car brand and stuff like that. My idea was like hyper aerodynamic stuff. But so I guess I would include that. That was like maybe the first time that I ever considered the idea of having a company. So it's quite ambitious, right?
Yeah.
But as time went on, it just never seemed that foreign of an idea to me. So my father, he started Mike's Paint and Body. He had a laundromat before that, a non-video arcade before video games like really took off. So he had a series of businesses, but he ran the shop since the 1980s. So obviously by the time I came along, you know, he'd been running it for years, and I literally grew up in my dad's shop. My uncle, Joe Morgan Electric, right? So I just grew up in a family where that was a path that a lot of my family had taken. So it didn't seem like it was alien to me. So obviously growing up, I just wouldn't have thought that wasn't an opportunity.
Yeah.
As far as, like I said, the veiled vanity stuff is just, what can I do in college and what can I kind of open up? And it's been great.
Yeah, no, that's a very valuable lesson. And besides like the things you were saying before with learning all the taxes, what's another thing that maybe people who didn't tell you specifically is a great thing to know, but then when you went into it, you're like, wow, this is really valuable knowledge? At least in like running a business or doing something a little bit more entrepreneurial than the average person going to college.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little silly, but make sure that you're on top of where your money's going. And it's easy when you're starting out because you can kind of get a feel for whether you're being profitable or not by just looking at your account and all of that. But really, if you're running a business, if you're going to be successful and you want to grow, which I think is the point, right? You should want your thing to be at least sustainable.
Right.
Then you need to understand where your money's going. And what I mean by that is how much is in all the supplies that you use, how much is in the labor that you use, because if it's going to be sustainable, you have to be making money yourself, right? You have to be able to pay yourself and cover your cost. How much are you worth, right? So you just have to be calculating all of this stuff, because at the end of the day, the profit that you make is just the kind of accounting that you provided value, and you did so efficiently enough to get a cut of it.
Right. Yeah.
And I know that perhaps that sounds like a little bit, economist stuff. I'm kind of interested in that. But like at the end of the day, that's ultimately what you're trying to do. You're trying to provide value to other people.
Absolutely.
And you're trying to do so efficiently enough that you get paid for it so that it's sustainable.
Yeah. And like you said, your family was kind of into it as well. And so do you think that kind of thing just runs in your blood?
I think that by growing up in my father's shop and seeing how he interacts with customers and being in a very customer focused company, which to be honest, a lot of body shops have pretty bad reputations. I didn't really know this until I was older. Right. So a lot of people think, oh, like chop shop, stuff like that. They're coming in and they're kind of being a little on edge. They're like, oh, is this person going to overcharge me? That kind of a thing. So when you really hit them with interacting with them one-on-one and being completely upfront and guiding them through the process of what to expect, you're providing that extra value. They're going to come back. Right.
Yeah.
And so I learned from him how to be customer focused. And I think that that's one of the most important things, no matter what you're doing in business, because ultimately what you're doing is providing value to somebody. And so you need to focus on that.
Yeah. So that combined with like the time you've had at school, it seems like it's really something you've hammered down. Do you think anything else in childhood has kind of geared you up to have this more entrepreneurial mindset versus what other people may be doing?
I mean, yes and no. One thing that happened to me when I was a child was I had a terrible go at elementary school. So my parents were more or less able to pull me out of public school through middle school and high school. Now, I did online school. It was like really new at the time too. I'm a little bit older than some of my peers here. So it was like really new stuff. We didn't have Zoom yet. We had Blackboard something. I forget even.
Yeah.
And so what that kind of did, I feel, is kind of isolate me perhaps from a lot of my peers. And so I had a lot of time when I would get done with my schoolwork that I could spend just kind of educating myself and kind of interacting with the world outside of what I would have been had I just gone through the public education system.
Educating yourself how?
Just however I want. One thing would have been economics. I got interested in economics. And so there was lots of times that I would get frustrated with some other class, whether it was English or mostly math, and I would just like go on YouTube or when I'm doing busy work, just like listen to economic lectures and stuff like that. And had I been confined in the public school system, I don't think I would have. Now, the reason why I'm saying that that might have like geared me more towards entrepreneurship is that I feel like perhaps the public education system is really good at creating workers. Actually, I disagree, but that's what it's trying to do.
Okay.
I don't know. So I think my lack of experience with that helped me. And I have some people in my family, they didn't go to public school system, and they're doing entrepreneurship stuff. And it's not necessarily as big in their side of the family as mine. I think that a lot of people who run these kind of small scale businesses and stuff like that tend to be people who are sort of outsiders. And I think it's unfortunate for our society that that's the case.
Why is that?
Because what we really need is for everyone to reach their potential. And I feel like in the current business landscape, our country's much better served if more people are taking risks and trying new things. I think you just get more dynamism. And, you know, I'm a big fan of like creative destruction. Okay, so we had taxi cabs. It's like, okay, the taxi cab system works, but then you have Uber and Lyft and these other things. Somebody took a risk.
Right.
Somebody decided, hey, there's a better way to do this. And I think that we need more of that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think that our education system is set up for a true like 21st century education for our people. One of the things that I've spoken with you about is AI. It's like, how do we deal with AI, right? Because I can sit there and have it pump out an essay on whatever. I can sit there and have it do my homework. Perhaps we're not being ambitious enough. I mean, if you have advanced AI, is it not better to have some kind of like big project and expect more out of the kids? You know what I mean? I don't think that it's necessarily out of the realm of possibility for like fifth graders now to calculate like the trajectory and the amount of fuel you would need in a rocket to go to the moon as a project.
Because of AI?
Yes, because they would be able to go on the AI. They'd be able to figure out what kind of math and that kind of stuff. They'd be able to generate a Python calculator to make the calculations. They'd be able to learn from it what calculations they need to make.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, like we were talking about before, my little story about this is that the new ChatGPT just came out. I think it's 3.0 something, but it's super good at coding specifically, coding and logic. And so I have a VR class I'm taking currently, and a lot of it has to do with like game design, and it's all in Unity. And this is my first time actually touching Unity. And I had a task of, I'm just making a simple room. But the thing is, I didn't want it to be that simple. So I thought like, oh, where can I look for this information? Obviously, ChatGPT might know. And so I go on there and I said, well, how can I do such a thing? And it gave me a step-by-step exactly how, what the code I need. It wrote the code for me, how I can implement that into Unity, exactly like which buttons I even need to press. And then so I just followed the instructions it gave me, implemented like the entire code, and then it ran something that was way better than what I could have produced, honestly, just by myself. Yeah, and look, I mean, at the end of the day, you could say, okay, there's something to be gained by understanding how to code something from scratch, right? Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like niche knowledge. Like, I don't need to know how to do plumbing. I need a task specialization, and if I need plumbing stuff, I hire a plumber. Mm-hmm. Right? So even because I can see the argument made, like, okay, well, you don't know how to actually do that in Unity from scratch. Right? However, if your ChatGPT thing didn't work and you were running a business and you're like, shoot, I need to make this work, what would your first thought be? Probably just ask AI. Well, if AI is not working for some reason. Oh, if AI is not working, then I would, I don't know, ask a specialist maybe? Yeah. So I would go on Fiverr and look up somebody who has programming experience and pay them money to look over and ask me how. Yeah. When I was doing my internship at Peter Boulware Toyota, I collected a whole bunch of data, right? Which was basically the time that an RO sat on a service writer's desk to the time they left, because the AI system couldn't track that. Mm-hmm. So I had all this data. Do I really know how to take all that data and make it into a bunch of really nice charts and make it into a big presentation to show Mr. Boulware? I don't. And it's the real world, and I'm met with a real thing. I pay somebody $40 who that's what they do. That's what they specialize in. Mm-hmm. I go online, I find a guy, in like 45 minutes, it takes him 2 days. Right. Like, that's actually like how you solve problems. Mm-hmm. And so that's exactly like to our point, that once you have AI technology, it's like I can actually get deliverable results. And you could sit there and say, no, you need to learn Python from scratch and how to really understand what the AI is doing without it. Mm-hmm. Do you really? Yeah, not really. And unless your task specialization is to be the guy that everybody goes to when the code's awry and there's an exception for AI.
which there's a market for that, but you're not necessarily going to be that guy.
Yeah.
And so I think that going forward, something that could happen as far as how to pivot to a world where we do have AI, especially for like younger kids and stuff going through school, is maybe we just need to expect more from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you think that kind of ties into success of the newer generation?
I mean, I think that if you're ambitious and you want to achieve things and you learn how to leverage this technology, you can be more productive than people were in the past. I feel I'm a little bit harsh on some of the people growing up, unfortunately, but I really empathize with how COVID impacted a lot of people, and Zoom classes and all that stuff like negatively affected people. So I have empathy for them. But honestly, I feel like if you're an ambitious person and you learn how to leverage what you have at your disposal, you can do things that would not have been possible, perhaps even in the past, or would have been much more difficult. I don't feel like you need the level of intelligence and time and resources that it would have taken. I mean, take our businesses, especially, if you're doing a startup, it's like, if you're running this big legacy company, it's like, how do I get how do I compete with other companies? They have a department and they pay 5 people to do all of the service calling. It's like, well, actually a big thing right now is AI service calling. But see, you're starting from scratch. So you don't have to overcome sunken cost fallacy. You don't have to fire people. You don't have to worry about that extra 10% gain in quality from going from people to AI. Right? So I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunities in the world right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. I think AI, I did a little bit of a on the street type asking people questions here at the university, and one of the questions was a little bit about AI, asking whether it's going to be a detriment to future jobs or it's going to be something that'll be helpful. And a lot of people kind of said it'll be a detriment, but like you and I both agree, I think it'll be incredibly helpful. It might take away those specializations a little bit, but overall, I think if we're trying to reach a goal, we'll get there faster. And a lot more people who might be a little bit less experienced might be able to do a lot better things in the future. But I did have a question for you. So if you had to sum up your philosophy of success, what would it be, do you think?
At the same time, and I had to learn this, at the same time that I love to just will things into be and just put my all into it, to know when to cut your loss and to know when to pivot and to be okay with that is something that I've had to learn.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's of the utmost importance to success. And I think that that's one of the big questions in business. Is when do we cut our loss? What are we going to do here? How can we pivot? This isn't working, because you can just stubbornly fail forever.
Yeah.
If you come up against something that is insurmountable. But okay, that didn't work. What do I have at my disposal? What can I pivot to? During COVID, they wanted me to do online classes. At the time, I was at TCC, business, doing my associate's degree focused on business management. It's like, I really don't want to do online classes. So I was working on my father's shop, and I was saving money, and I had an idea for a deck chair. Other people have made something very similar, but I was going to do like bright colors and focus on people who have like really nice condos and stuff like that. So I was slowly building up my woodworking area at my father's old shop. We had moved to a new location. About the time that I got everything built up and was ready to start on the prototypes, somebody broke in and stole all of my tools. Could I have rebuilt that and started it again? Yeah. But classes were going to be opening soon again. And it's like, okay, I'm going back to college and then to FSU. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a pivot.
Yeah.
And that's difficult to do. I initially, upon coming into FSU, going to the college business, like, ooh, actually, college entrepreneurship is better.
Yeah.
And it was kind of at a low point that I found out about its existence, essentially. I'd considered the two, but I didn't really do any research into it. I thought it was part of the college of business. And so, yeah, it seemed like a video game. It all kind of happened on the last day, and the last day to drop one of my classes and then to decide to pivot over. It's been great.
Yeah. Do you think that happened for a reason? Do you believe in the whole everything happens for a reason thing, or do you think that was just a coincidence?
I mean, I'm not going to lie that, like I said, it felt like it happened for a reason. It was kind of, so I'm not going to lie. It did feel like that. Does everything kind of happen for a reason? That's a difficult thing for me to answer. I mean, I'd have to kind of say no, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you're allowed to. You can say no.
But it doesn't feel right. So
Fair enough. I mean, your opinion on that can change, of course. I think it all depends on the area you are in your life. For a lot of people's opinions, what they think. You might think something completely different later on. So who knows? Yeah,
I mean, everything happens for a reason. I mean, some terrible things happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, it was so lovely having you on my podcast. I love everything you had to say. And thank you so much for answering all my questions. And thank you all for listening in, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye.